federated learning is a way to train models across multiple data sets. That's the very easy take on it. So you might be wondering, how does this work? The way you do it in federated learning, and let's just start off by giving an example. Let's say we have, for example, a group of hospitals. They have some in-house data, but due to regulations, they cannot share this data and they cannot put this data in the cloud, and they can't use the usual machine learning workflow where you basically collect all of the data in a central repository and then train your model on it. So that's not an option for them. So they might be interested in using federated learning. And how would a federated learning setup then work in such a scenario? So the way it works is that you have your plain old machine learning model. Let's say it's a neural network, like, for example, a CNN that does some kind of image classification. Maybe you want to look at radiology images, for example. And you would initialize this model in a central place. Let's call this the central server. And this central server would, after initializing the model, send this model out to all of the participating hospitals. So it would send the uninitialized model, but there are other variants of it, just to say this for the sake of completeness. But in our initial example, just to explain the very basic version of it, they would send out the initialized model, so a model that hasn't learned anything yet. The model would then be trained locally within each hospital on the data that is available locally. So each hospital obviously has a different data set. They would train the model not until convergence, but they would only train it for a little while. So let's say they would train it for 1 or 2 epochs. And after they trained the model for 1 or 2 epochs, they would send the updated model parameters or the gradients that they accumulated back to the central server. So that way they don't have to share the data. The data stays where it originated. The data always stays within each participating hospital. The central server would only get the refined model parameters. So the model parameters that have been trained for 1 or 2 epochs, it would get that from all of the participating hospitals. And what the central server then does is it aggregates those parameters. In the simplest version, it just does a weighted average over these parameters. What I just described is a way of initializing the model, sending it out, training it locally, collecting the updated parameters, and then aggregating the parameters. That is one single round of federated learning.